real estate is all about people. It's always been all about people. And of course, it's your expertise, your experience, knowledge. That's a huge part. But at the end of the day, it's about people. And social media is just one more tool. It's one more conversation opportunity. It's one more chance to build connections with people. And, in a second, I'm going to talk a little bit about people on the fringe. There's people on the fringe of our lives that in the past would have been really difficult to keep in touch with. People like that we used to go to school with, people that we used to work with. And there's a huge opportunity with being able to connect with some of those people. With social media, you really have the opportunity to set your brand on fire. And I love this picture. I think it really emphasizes, the opportunity. And if you're someone who's like, yeah, Katie, I'm on Facebook, and I don't know, I've got a page, and I don't know, it's not really working. What can I do? I can't emphasize enough that there is a humongous opportunity to take your personal brand literally on fire and to turn it around in really a short period of time. This is something that I work with a lot of clients on, and it's amazing. In just a short period of time, when you're focused on building relationships with the key people in your network, people that you think could potentially be clients over the next 6, 12, 18 months, it is literally amazing what happens, especially when you have a consistent and focused effort. And so I want to get into a few examples here. A few weeks ago, I asked this question, and I shared this actually on stage a week or two ago at Agent Reboot in New York. But I wanted to really share this again because there were some really, really kind of cool answers here. So I shared on my Facebook page this question: do you have business that you can attribute because of friendships you've developed through social media? And so, I posted that question, and I can't tell you the number of responses that I received. I had, at the time of doing the screen capture, I had 46 comments, tons of people liking it, and I highlighted a few people that I know personally through social media that shared sort of their success stories. So Ryan Huckel, he's out in Oklahoma City doing a fantastic job with his business, and he says, absolutely, last time I tracked it, social media was bringing in 80% of my business. And I know from talking to Ryan personally, he's got a great site in Oklahoma City, and really he's focused on local content and building relationships with people in his local area. Karen Bigos, she's a great agent out on the East Coast in New Jersey, and ran into her in person in New York last week as well, and she said, I can directly track over $30 million in sales to Facebook relationships. It may even be higher. Last night I listed a house in Summit, New Jersey for $1.75 million directly because of Facebook. And again, I've talked to Karen. She's someone who really understands the importance of being involved in social media and the long haul. It takes time. It takes persistence and consistency in building relationships with people. And then, another person who's really near and dear to my heart, Robert Stern. I actually had the pleasure of talking to Robert yesterday. I think Robert's listening. If you're listening in, Robert, I'm waving hi to you from San Francisco. But Robert is a great example of someone who is very consistent. He's had posted on my thread as well. He said 14 deals in 13 months because of Facebook. And one of the things that I talked to him actually for quite a while yesterday about his success on Facebook. And one of the things he told me is he said, Katie, think about it. 80% of your sphere is most likely on Facebook. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think when you start thinking about your sphere of influence, in the past we would send out drip campaigns, right? You put everybody on a drip, and they'd get a drip once a month or every other month. And a lot of you are still doing that, and that is effective. Email marketing, even direct mail, big fan of a lot of that. But in addition to that, Facebook and social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, it allows you to do drip marketing on a whole other level. Robert talks about dripping every day. It's very important to him. He posts to his personal Facebook page 4 times a day, very strategically, but it's personal, it's interactive. He responds. He doesn't just post and run. And so little things like that make a really, really big difference. I talked a few minutes ago about people on the fringe, and this is an important concept. I've heard about this in other circles outside of real estate, but I think it's important to really talk about it here in terms of real estate. What do I mean by people on the fringe? Well, in the past, we obviously, we keep in touch with people sometimes, right? We would keep in touch with people we used to work with, people that maybe we went to high school with or college with, but let's face it, like the cost to keep in touch with those people was just too hard, right? I mean, back when email first started, yeah, you would send out a mass email when something exciting happened, but to keep in touch with those people and to really build relationships over the long haul, was really challenging. And this is one of the benefits of social media, is the ability to keep in touch with people who are on the fringes of our lives, and build those relationships. And statistically, there's been a lot of reports about business and leads that come from social media. Statistically, a lot of the business that people gain from social media comes from those fringe relationships, comes from people on the outer edges of our lives. And it's never been easier to scale those kind of relationships because of social media. There was a recent report that came out from Nielsen just a few weeks ago. They put together this really comprehensive social media report. You can go to their site to download it. It's really interesting. And one of the things that really stood out to me as I read the report is that they said social media is no longer a passing trend as we enter the fully fledged social media age this year. And this is really huge to me. I've been involved in the social media world for the last 6 or 7 years, which, in the world of social media, that's sort of a lifetime. But I really believe, not just because of this report, but because of just my experience in working with so many of you in the industry, that 2013, this is really the year. This is really the year that we are entering the fully fledged social media year. This is the year that we're seeing companies really starting to invest in people, in resources, in software, beyond just hiring the youngest person at the company, right, to handle social media. It's incredible to see the transformation that's happening throughout this industry. Now, a lot of you talk to me and you say, Katie, social media moves so fast. How do you keep up? There's so much noise. And I think it's important to address because there is a lot of noise in social. And the people who do really well, who succeed in social, are able to cut through some of that noise and to not get sucked into the time that sometimes social can be. It's pretty incredible, some of the stats around how much time is actually spent in social media. And this is a report that came out pretty recently, but every minute of the day, 100,000 tweets are sent. Every minute of the day. Every minute of the day, over 600,000 pieces of content are shared on Facebook, which is incredible. Every minute of the day, 48 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. It's pretty incredible when you think about just the number of content. There's more content happening right now than probably ever before in our lifetimes. And so, again, cutting through the noise. I'm going to share some secrets and some tips of how I cut through the noise because there's some really specific things that I think make a huge difference in cutting through the noise. In terms of registered users and active users, this is just some recent numbers around how many people are on different networks. Facebook clearly still in the lead with 1 billion users. Daily active users, there's over 500,000 daily active users on Facebook. I don't know about you, but everybody I know, for the most part, is on Facebook, right? My parents, even my grandparents. And the time spent on social media is pretty amazing. On average, close to 7 hours a month on social media. I actually think these numbers are pretty conservative. But the big question here is, what are we doing with our time, right? So we're all spending time on Facebook. We're all tweeting. We're all posting on LinkedIn and Google Plusing and Foursquare. But, what are we really doing with that time? And in my opinion, it's all in the details. I say this to people all the time. I have a number of clients I work with, and I always tell them, it's all in the details. Yes, there's some really big things you can do. You can have content strategy, which is huge. You can have, a social strategy. You can have analytics. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of really little things that make a really big difference. So little things really, really do make a big difference. And what I want to do is go over a few things that I feel really, really make a big difference. We're going to take 1 second here. We need to check our settings really fast. So I'm going to just ask that you guys hang on with me for 1 second here. Again, you got to love technology, right? So we're just going to check one thing really fast. So while you guys are listening in, I would love for you to send out a tweet and let me know, how. First of all, do you have business that you can attribute from social media? Send me a tweet, pound Inman Web. Would love to know if you've had business yet from social media. There's already tons of tweets that are coming through. Feel free to put it in the chat as well. Awesome. Cool. So as you guys are doing that, I'm going to talk about little things that make a big difference. So there really are little things that make a big difference. Now, I can't talk about social media and not say this. I say this probably every time I talk about social media. No tweet left behind. So this is a huge thing, and I say this and I smile because I know as I say this, I'm probably going to get 500 tweets, and you're all going to test me to see if I really respond to all of you. But I really will sometime today. It may not be in the next 20 minutes. But no tweet left behind. I am a huge believer. If someone takes the time to tweet you, to respond, to mention you on social media, you've got to respond. And it amazes me how many people don't do this. You know, I get asked all the time, well, what if you're a big brand? What if you've got, you know, tens of thousands of followers or whatever? You can make it happen. If it's important, you can make it happen. So taking the time to respond, and a response can be a smiley face. It could be a thank you. It could be the like button. Every notification, every comment gets acknowledged, every private message, every time. How many of you have dozens of private messages in Facebook that you haven't answered right now? I'm sure you're probably smiling because there's probably a lot of you, who have those private messages, DMs that you haven't answered. Little things make a big difference. If you're an agent or you're a broker and you've got a business page, are you acknowledging every comment? You put something out there and you're wondering why you only have 1 or 2 likes. Take the time to acknowledge every comment. And again, acknowledging can just literally be clicking the like button, or again, responding and saying, hey, thanks so much for commenting. I can't tell you how huge this is, especially for brands, whether you have 100 people who like your page or 100,000 people who like your page. This is one of my favorite quotes on here. Seth Godin says, over and over again, connecting people with one another is what lasts online. Some folks thought it was about technology, but it's not. Right? It's not about technology. Don't get hung up on the technology. It's really about the people. I thought this was an interesting article. This was in Forbes just a couple days ago. Really great article about thinking social, acting personal. And I have a big red arrow in there because one of the sentences that really stuck out to me was this. In order to think social, you need to act personal. And I think this is really huge. There's certainly, like I said, a place for content strategy and what you're going to post to social. And those of you who know me know I talk a lot about that, where to get content, how to curate content, and what to post and what to say. That's a huge part of it. But the other huge part of it is being personal and listening and being a listener and using these channels to listen, which will really foster relationships. Relationships are really built over small interactions over time. I've said this before, but it's really important to understand this. It's just like in real life. You think about how relationships are built in real life. They're built because you meet somebody at a barbecue, and then you run into them at the grocery store, and then you become Facebook friends with them, and then you see them at school, and over time you just get to know them. And it's the same thing on social media. What's incredible about social media is what I've found, and I know a lot of you can relate to this, is that it's really accelerated relationships. The fact that we're sharing information about our families and travels and work, and we're sharing all these different things, it accelerates the relationships that we have. And it's certainly easy to be the person doing all the talking, right? In real estate, we're really good at talking. And there's certainly a place for talking on social, right? Sharing those really exciting things, like the moment your clients get their first set of keys, the moment that that they get their dream house, all those exciting things. Obviously, you want to be talking about that. But the real beauty of social media is listening and noticing. And so I really encourage everyone who's listening to really think differently about your social. Don't just be a broadcaster. If you're someone on social who just pops in, posts something, and runs away, this is the year to change that. This is the year to really start engaging and listening authentically. People ask me all the time, Katie, you talk about liking a photo or commenting on photos or commenting on status updates. Does that all make a big difference? And yeah, it really, really does. That's how you build relationships with people, is commenting on their vacation to Hawaii, commenting on their kids, clicking like on posts that resonate with you. It's certainly about being authentic, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Authenticity is huge. I think all of us, for lack of a better word, our BS filter is a lot stronger than it's been in the past. So being really authentic and not just being a broadcaster. Connecting with people beyond the status update. So again, beyond just posting something and running. One of the things that is really important, it's been huge for me in my business, and it's also been huge in a lot of people that I've talked to with social media, is being intentional. So are you connecting with people intentionally or haphazardly? Stop the random acts of social media. If you're tweeting, you can tweet back. Stop the random acts of social media. Now, I will say there is a certain part of social that's random, right? I mean, just a few minutes ago, I'm sitting here in the hearsay office. Let's take a photo. We took a photo. We put it up on Facebook and Twitter. That wasn't planned. It was a moment. It happened. That's part of social. That's part of the beautiful part about social. But there's also a very intentional part of social. And I'm going to share with you some of the ways that I'm intentional and that I've seen successful people be intentional in social. There's some specific tools that can really help you in terms of building relationships and being intentional. So if you have a company blog, using your company blog. I am, to be honest, as a trend, I'm seeing less and less company blogs, but also I'm seeing more blogs that are being used to their potential. So meaning, back in the day, we would see people set up a blog and then abandon it. And luckily, I'm seeing less of that. I'm seeing more people who have blogs who are actually using them on a consistent basis. So if you have a company blog, use that blog to write, to capture your catchy stories, funny things that happen around the office, behind the scenes with clients, all those questions you get asked day in and day out. Create blog posts, whether they're written or video posts. That's a great way to build relationships with people. Social media groups, I'm going to touch on this in just a second. Groups are a huge opportunity to build rapport with the audience you want to build rapport with. So groups really foster productive conversations. And the wisdom of crowds. One of the ways you can build relationships is ask questions. Ask the people that you follow for advice. If you're thinking of, if you're looking for a restaurant in the area, I think of Sean Carpenter, who used this example a few weeks ago. How do you talk about real estate without talking about real estate? Well, what if you had a new client who just moved to San Francisco and you posted on your status update, hey, just have a new client who just moved to San Francisco. What's the best restaurant you'd recommend? So you're talking about your client, but you're also talking about restaurants, right? And it's an easy way to crowdsource and to get feedback and to get people to chime in on your conversation. So being intentional. I touched on this a second ago, but I really can't emphasize it enough. And when I talk about being intentional, I'm going to talk about really what I call the big three. The big three in social, especially when it comes to building relationships. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who are big Google Plus lovers and Pinterest and Instagram, and there's all these other networks which are awesome, but I'm going to focus on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook because, in my opinion, these are three of the best networks to really build relationships and be intentional. So first and foremost, I want to start with LinkedIn because I feel like LinkedIn sometimes kind of the dark horse, right? It's not as fun as Facebook. It's more professional. But let me tell you, LinkedIn is a huge opportunity. When you are reaching out to potential and current clients, when you're in that early stages of just literally meeting someone, you don't necessarily want to just send them a friend request on Facebook right off the bat, right? Sometimes it's a little creepy, right? We've all been in that experience where you literally all you did was say hi to somebody, and the next thing you know, you've got this Facebook friend request, and you're not sure, should I accept it, should I not accept it? It's like this whole awkward thing you go through, right? We've all done that. LinkedIn, it's a little bit different, right? You can send that LinkedIn request, it's more professional, it's more accepted, and it's the first step in building a relationship. So this is something I do. When I first meet someone, and I've made a connection, I request them through LinkedIn. I start building that relationship. I also search them out on Twitter, which I'm going to talk about in a second. The other way to engage once you've connected with someone on LinkedIn are LinkedIn endorsements. This is one of the easiest things to do. A LinkedIn endorsement is not a testimonial. But what a LinkedIn endorsement is everyone on LinkedIn has certain categories that they're either have set up or by default are basically categories of expertise. So you can go to that person's profile and click, oh, they're an expert in real estate, or they're an expert in Facebook, or whatever that might be. Now you might not know what they're an expert in right off the bat, but down the road you might at some point realize that they have a great expertise in short sales or whatever the case may be. That's a simple thing to build relationships because guess what? They get an email. They get an email saying, Katie Lance just endorsed you on LinkedIn. And then testimonials. Down the road, after you've built a relationship with someone, maybe you've closed a deal, are you getting testimonials? And the best way to get a testimonial on LinkedIn is to give a testimonial. So you give a testimonial. Is it part of your business strategy to give 2 or 3 testimonials every single month? And I tell you, in real estate, there's a lot of places to get testimonials. There's all different sources. We all know them. But I really do believe LinkedIn is one of the most important places. When you Google someone, one of the first things that comes up is their LinkedIn profile. If you don't have any testimonials on there, what does that say about your business, about your expertise? Twitter. So Twitter's a huge opportunity to build relationships with people. Now, obviously, not everybody is on Twitter. But what I've found is that some of the most tech-savvy people are on Twitter, and that's where you can really build a relationship with them. So reaching out to potential and current clients via Twitter, again, is part of the process. You've connected with them on LinkedIn, you connected with them on Twitter. Again, it's not weird, right? If you follow someone on Twitter that you don't know, that's okay. That's part of the etiquette. One of the best ways to intentionally connect with people and build relationships on Twitter is through lists. So I use lists all the time. I'm a big proponent of lists, and I highly recommend you create 2 lists. One list is a client list, and one list is a potential client list. Now this can be public or private, and on your client list or your potential client list, you might have 5 or 10 or 20 people. It's probably going to be, a fairly small, manageable number. I recommend you look at that list once a day, every other day, at least a few times a week, and see who's tweeting and authentically engage with them. If they're tweeting on interesting stories, respond, retweet them. Again, that one little retweet, that's not going to, seal the deal and all of a sudden you're best friends and, they're buying all these houses from you. But it's these little teeny moments over the course of time that really do make a big difference. And if they're engaged on Twitter, that's a great way to build a relationship with on Twitter. Facebook. So Facebook, is obviously one of the best ways to build relationships with people. So now you've connected on LinkedIn. You've connected on Twitter. So now if you send that friend request, it's not weird. You're not creepy. All right? Now you're actually friends with them because you've built a little bit of rapport. So there's 2 things that you got to do. And I tell you, I know if you've listened to webinars before, you know that we talk about webinars all the time. We talk about lists all the time. But I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to someone and tell them about lists. And they're like, wait, how do I do that? Wait, I can do that? So if you're not doing that, this is a huge opportunity. So you click on your friends. Click on friends and then click the button that says create list. And you're going to create 2 lists, one about clients and one potential clients. The reason why you're doing this is, like I talked about earlier, there's all this noise, right? You go on Facebook and there's everybody from the person you went to high school with to the person you just met who's playing Farmville, who's sending you a friend request, to somewhere in there is somebody you really want to keep in touch with. Now, I practice what I preach. So I have this. I have a client list. I have a potential client list. These are private, so people won't see this list. And the benefit is this. So you click on that potential client list or that client list once a day, every single day. And then you authentically engage. So you click on that list, and what you're going to see are those 10 or 20 people that you put on that list. And some people are more active than not, but you will be amazed. When I first did this, I remember thinking, yeah, I see everybody that's important to me on my newsfeed. I don't need a list. And then I started really using lists, especially these client lists. Huge. Because you do miss things, right? With Facebook, they've got edge rank and they filter things out. You don't see everything. Even if you only have a couple hundred friends, you still don't see everything. So put your clients, put your potential clients in a list. Click on it once a day. Look and see what they're posting. Photos from Hawaii, pictures of their kids, whatever they're doing, and authentically engage. Now don't just click like on everything, right? But something that's of interest, comment, like, and engage with them. The other thing that's huge on Facebook are groups. And every time I'm part of a new group or I have the opportunity to create a new group, I'm reminded all over again how amazing groups can be, especially when you've got a small-ish number of people. So I really encourage you, if you haven't created a group, I know a lot of you are part of groups, right? There's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of groups out there. If you haven't created a group, I really encourage you to think about it. Now, I will caution you, you need to have the bandwidth to participate. So don't create this and then walk away, right? The benefit is that this is sort of your community, your place that you can have a great conversation. So think about who are people who do you want to build relationships with? Maybe it's your team. If you're a broker or your manager, it's your team, your office team. I remember talking to Chris Nichols pretty recently, and he's like, Katie, why didn't I think? Put all my agents in a group on Facebook, right? Yes, that's a great idea. You could put people in a group who live in such and such town, right? People who live in San Francisco, people who live in New York, put them all in a private group. And that group is all about the city and the community. First-time home buyers. So who you want to build a relationship with, put them in a small group. And I tell you, the conversations that come out because of groups are amazing. With a group, it's much more private. People are a lot more comfortable in engaging and having a conversation. Huge opportunity to build relationships. So authenticity, I touched on this earlier. Anybody who knows me knows that it's all about authenticity, right? You got to be yourself. You have to be real. You can't be fake, especially on social media. And I've been saying this more and more. Don't just act authentic, but be authentic. So what does this mean? Don't filter out negative feedback or negative posts. When you really start to get active on social, you're going to have people, not everybody agrees with you. Not everybody likes you, right? You might see a negative comment on, on your Facebook page. Unless it's just, I don't know, it's totally inflammatory, I would leave it on there because that's part of social. It's honest, it's authentic. Authenticity is not just another buzzword. So be real to create trust. Now, should you acknowledge that comment? Absolutely. The worst thing is you see somebody complain, right? We've probably all done this. You had a bad experience somewhere with some company and you post on their Facebook wall, you tweet them, and it's like tweeting into the forest, right? You just never hear anything back. So respond, right? Respond, and answer and comment. Really, really huge thing to do to build trust and to build relationships. Building trust with others. Building trust, one of the best ways to do that is being authentic, responding to people through social, and be a connector. This is one of the things that I've realized really in the last year is huge. So be a connector to people. You know, one of the best ways that you can build relationships is as you're talking to people, whether it's on social media, whether it's at a cocktail party, you know, people love to talk about what they're doing. And can you be someone who connects somebody with someone else? You know, and just from experience, this is something I've done a lot of recently, saying, hey, you know, have you met so-and-so? You know, let me introduce you through email. And then follow through it and make sure it happens. And I can't tell you, just thinking beyond yourself and thinking about other people and connecting people that you know, that's a huge way to build relationships. Be relevant as well. You know, and again, it kind of goes back to being authentic, is being relevant to your audience and who you're talking to. And then my last two things here, you know, and I know, you know what, to be honest, we might go a few minutes over, but hopefully you guys are all good with that. We've got a lot of great content on here, and I want to do some Q&A at the end. But one of the things I want to touch on right here is cultivating brand advocates. This is a huge thing that you can do to build relationships. You know, I could probably do a whole webinar just on brand advocates or building ambassadors. This is something that I'm really excited about that we did at Inman. You know, Inman's got an awesome, strong core of Inman ambassadors. And every brand, whether you're an individual agent, whether you're a brokerage or franchise, you've got these raving fans, these people who just love what you do. So, you know, how do you cultivate those? And one of the ways you can cultivate them is through groups, through engaging with them, making them feel special. Friends trust friends who are advocates, right? Isn't it more powerful when you've got, you know, your friends talking about your company, your brand, versus yourself, right? It's just all the more easier. So take care of them, and you take care of them by, again, paying attention, thanking them, being authentic, being genuine, and being a part of their audience too. So if you've got top agents who are just over the moon for what you do, if you've got top clients who just love what you do, be part of their audience too. If your client has a Facebook page because they have a boutique, you know, downtown in San Francisco, like that page, interact with them, you know, give to get. So tweet them, LinkedIn endorsements, being a part of their audience too, and having that long-term focus in terms of building relationships. My last slide here before I do Q&A is really important, and I talked about this in New York a couple weeks ago, and that is taking the online offline. This is a picture from yesterday. I was on a roll with cards. You know, I sat down to write like one card. I'm like, you know, I need to write some more cards. And it's amazing how many people don't connect after an event. And I wanted to put this out there because I know a lot of you were at New York. A lot of you have gone to conferences. There's a lot of conferences coming up this year. You know, how many of you don't connect after an event? So take the time to reach out via LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, but also take the time to write a few notes. You know, if there's someone that you had a personal conversation with at Connect or a recent event, just send them a quick note in the mail. Hey, you know, it's great chatting with you. It's great talking to you. Really appreciate it. You know, something sincere, something authentic. It's pretty amazing. I don't know about you, but I love getting a handwritten card in the mail. I love, you know, coming in, you know, I've got the stack of bills, and it's like you weed through it and you find, you know, something personal. It's awesome. And so, and I know a lot of you do this for your business. I posted on Facebook yesterday about writing cards, and so many of you commented and said, yes, it's a part of my business, which is awesome. But just really want to encourage you, because with Facebook, there's a huge opportunity to do that. You know, and one of the things that I really love about Hearsay Social is they've got, as part of their platform, this amazing tool to kind of weed through all these social signals that happen on social media, right? So we see people who have babies and they, you know, something major happens in their life, they get married, it's their anniversary. We see some of that, but I'm going to bring Jen on in a second because we've got a couple questions about that. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because those big moments, that's an opportunity not just to write on their Facebook wall, but to send them a card or to send them a Facebook gift. And, you know, a lot of times we miss some of that stuff. We think we see it all, but we really don't. So it's just a really, really cool opportunity there. So we're going to do a few questions here. We're doing pretty good on time. And I'm going to look at, I'm going to pull up our questions here. So if you have any questions, and really nice comments. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to start with a couple questions that we've got for hearsay, and then I'm going to pull up a few questions that some of you have asked me too. So my first question is here, and I'm going to direct this to Jen. How can I support the agents in my brokerage to proactively build relationships on social networks?
That's a great question, and this actually has a lot to do with your most recent slide on sending handwritten notes. But every day, more than 1 billion people are sharing on social media what's happening in their lives. And your agents' networks are full of leads. So when the connections in your network move, get married, or get promoted, they share these moments, and that's really a golden opportunity for an agent to reach out to them. This is a little bit different from looking in your Facebook newsfeed or in your LinkedIn stream, because those areas in those networks tend to be a little bit cluttered with micro updates. The photo of what someone had for breakfast, for instance. So at Hearsay Social, we use advanced algorithms to extract the most important key events in your agent's network so that they're really not distracted by these other photos or these other updates that really aren't as relevant or aren't as key to building those relationships with them.
That's awesome. Really, really good stuff. So I've got a couple of questions on here. Where do we get the package for Hearsay Social? So I've got the link here. I am going to drop this link in the chat here. So this is going to be the link to the download, which is really cool. Whoops, hold on a second. Let me grab that. I have some slide issues today, my goodness. So this is this package right here. This is very cool. So this is a package from Hearsay Social. It's a really awesome success kit that's got white papers and other really relevant material. So that's the link right there. You can go ahead and download that. Let me pull up a few other questions because there were some other really good questions here. Let's see here. So a lot of questions about Facebook pages versus group. Why have a page and a group? And I think that's a really good question. A Facebook business page is a great place to post once a day or at least a few times a week content that's relevant to your business. So market updates, new listings, things that are happening with your business, events that you go to. But a group is more of a conversation, right? So a group is more of a conversation you're going to have with specific people, whether it's people who are first-time home buyers, whether it's people who live in a specific area, whether it's specific agents. I've heard of a lot of great mastermind groups on Facebook. I'm part of a small private group. There's 9 people in a group, and it's sort of like an accountability group. So think of groups in that way, that it's a little bit more of a conversation versus a Facebook page is a little bit more of a platform to post that information. And a few people have asked me how to create lists in Facebook. I'll tell you, I think Facebook hides it for some reason. If anybody knows me at Facebook, we got to call them up. But to create lists on Facebook, the easiest thing to do, the way I do it, is on your home page. If you scroll on the left-hand side of your home page, there's all these, all your different tabs of groups and things that you belong to. On the left-hand side, click on where it says Friends. And when you click to your friends, there's a button that will take you to a place that will be able to create lists. So again, on your home page, click Friends, and then click the Create List button. I've got another question here for Jen. I think this is a really good question. How do I encourage the agents in my brokerage to maintain their pages and profiles? That's a really good question.
That is a good question. We find that a lot of our agents and our customers don't know what to say or post on their social media profiles, and so they quickly, even if the pages or the profiles get set up originally and they're fully populated with, website URLs and photos, those quickly become, as I've heard Katie say, Facebook graveyards, and people don't continue to update them, and so they begin to lose touch, or people will stop following them, or they won't stay top of mind for their connections. And that's why we provide a content library that allows the marketing team, either at the brokerage or the corporate level, to feed interesting articles and information to their agents to post. We've talked about content strategies before, and that's actually one of the resources in this success kit. And agents should be posting a variety of things. They shouldn't just be posting their listings. They should be posting information on the markets, information on neighborhoods, information that really shows off their expertise of their neighborhoods and of the industry in general. And what's more, we have a content exchange with relevant articles that we give to corporate marketers to help them keep up with the demand for more social content. I mean, that's always a challenge, because if you have a brokerage with 200 agents in it and they all want different content to post, or even if they're all posting some of the same things, they're quickly, we find that the demand for content quickly outpaces the supply. So, because we provide this functionality in marketing, who can then empower their agents, the time investment needed to keep a lively and engagement pages is dramatically reduced. And most of our agents spend only 5 minutes posting a week's worth of content to their Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter pages.
Yep, that's true. That's true. I'm going to take a couple more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up here. I had a few people ask me about the recording and the slides. So we are definitely going to be posting slides. We're going to post on Inman Next in a few days. So it's at next.inman.com is where it's going to be. Hearsay Social will also have a link as well. But one of the things I recommend too is if you go to the Inman Next Facebook page, that'll be shared there. That's facebook.com/InmanNext. It'll be shared on my page too, facebook.com/KatieLance Consulting. And I'm sure it'll be shared on the Hearsay Social page too. There's this facebook.com/Hearsay Social. And the recording and the slides will be up as well. A couple questions about having a personal account and a business account. I'm a big proponent in having both. There's certainly a lot of arguments about having a business or personal. At a minimum, of course, you need a personal Facebook account. That's where a big chunk of your relationship building is going to happen, is actually through your personal account. Gone are the days of, oh, this is business and this is personal. I want to separate the two. It's not realistic, especially in our business. Now, do you have to share everything and anything? No, of course not. But you definitely need to use your personal profile to help build relationships as well. Just got to give a shout out to all our Australians. I see Peter Brewer tuning in from Australia. It must be like the middle of the night there or something. So thank you for tuning in from Australia. And I think we've got time for one last question. So I'm going to direct this to Jen. This is a really good question. What should I include as a strategy at the agent level when planning my brokerage's social media strategy?
That is a good question. I mean, we see a lot of interest in corporations and having these brand pages to be able to broadcast to a very extended group. I mean, these pages often have thousands and thousands of followers. But having an agent post is really a great way for them to build their reputations as experts in their industry and knowledgeable sources of information on their neighborhoods. Real estate agents are often, they always know the best coffee places, the best places to get a slice of pizza, and this should really be showcased on their pages. So having them post really emphasizes that. And what's more, buyers spend an average of 12 to 18 months researching houses and agents online before ever contacting an agent. So social networks are a great way to bridge that online research phase and really have your agents join the conversation earlier. That's going to be increasingly more important with the new social graph announcement that Facebook made, as consumers will be increasingly searching their networks to find recommendations for realtors. Without engaging content on those profiles, why would they choose to interact with them?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, if you don't have content up there, then there's no point really.
Right.
I'm gonna take one last question, and then I'm gonna sign off, because I know we've all got houses to sell and clients to talk to and business to do. But I had a few people ask me this about their business page. Katie, I have a Facebook business page I've neglected for a long time. Should I kill it off, start over, or should I reconnect and engage? I think that's a great question. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. I think if you haven't done anything with your business page, I wouldn't recommend deleting it, but you need to have a strategy around it. So, I've certainly seen people breathe life into their Facebook page very quickly, very easily. And honestly, a big part of it is just starting, just posting content once a day to your Facebook business page. You're not going to get a lot of, you're not going to get a lot of engagement because you haven't done it in, how long, right? It's been dead. But breathe life into it. Put some new images up there. Promote it. Send an email to your database telling people about it. Really start promoting it. You'll be amazed in a short period of time. The amount of traffic that can happen. Invest in some Facebook ads. I've talked a lot about Facebook ads and content strategy. I'm getting a lot of questions about content strategy, which is whole other topic in and of itself. So I really encourage you to go to Inman Next, next.inman.com, and I've written a lot of articles and past webinars on content strategy and suggestions. So would definitely encourage you to do that. So anyways, we're definitely a little bit over time. I really appreciate all of you hanging in there. We've got a lot of people still on the call. And so contact information is up here. Again, Katie Lance and at Katie Lance. You can reach me at facebook.com/Katie Lance Consulting. I know I didn't get to a lot of your questions, so feel free to post on my Facebook page today, and I'll definitely get back to you. Remember, no tweet left behind. I will promise to get back to all of you today. And then Jen Williams, thank you for being here. I appreciate it as well. Hearsay Social. Her Twitter handle is up there, as well as facebook.com/hearsaysocial and hearsaysocial.com. So again, thank you everybody. Really appreciate it. Hope all of you have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon. Thank you.